Good evening. Noswaith da, hyd, a diolch yn fawr am ddod heno. Thank you very much for joining us this evening and giving up your time. Very grateful. If we haven't met either in person or digitally, and I can see some new faces, so I may well be a new face to some. I'm Leisha Hawkins. I'm the CEO of Cricket Wales. I'm just going to be kicking us off this evening and welcoming everyone. I'm going to hand over to the experts on my team. You'll see some familiar faces already on the screen who are going to take you through kind of the detail of this evening, but very grateful for you joining us. I'll also introduce Neil Higginson, who is joining us from the ECB's facilities team. Neil is waving enthusiastically. Neil is in the facilities team, which supports all of the South West and Wales region, so all of our sort of neighbouring county boards, and he's very kindly given up his time this evening to assist us and to answer maybe some of the more technical questions that might be better aimed at ECB. The purpose of this evening, and we are recording just so to make you aware, so we're taking your consent by staying on the call this evening. If you do want to switch your video off, completely understand, but always great obviously to be able to see people's faces. Frosty, if we can just click onto the next slide, please. Thank you. We've already had a number of people mute themselves proactively, so very grateful. I know we're not tens of people this evening, so perhaps when we get into questions, we can take it a little bit more kind of free form, but just while people are speaking, if you're not speaking, if you could stay on mute, that would be appreciated. If you do have questions as we're going through, please feel free to use the chat function and we'll pick them up either at the end of sort of the relevant section, or we've got a question section right at the end. So please feel free to jot questions in there as we go. All right, so why we're here this evening, we have a very exciting new long-term strategic fund that the ECB have launched, which we are launching to our clubs this evening. We've already benefited greatly as clubs in Wales from both the generosity of Sport Wales with their Be Active Wales Fund over the last couple of years, and of course the ECB, who have kept cricket going, both supporting us and maintaining our funding, but also obviously ensuring that cricket clubs have not been lost to the pandemic. But we are now moving forwards and looking forwards. We have had unbelievable growth, actually, even in the context of a global pandemic in Wales. So this scheme, particularly in Wales, will help support that ongoing growth and obviously what we hope to continue in terms of growing our game. But I will be quiet now and I will let Frosty play a video, which is a little sneak preview of what we've done.
Together, the Welsh cricket family hit 2021 for 6. We increased open age membership by 31% since 2013, and over half of this growth was among women and girls. More and more young people in Wales are also stepping up to bat, with junior participation increasing by 63% since 2013. We have also grown our volunteer base by 63% since 2018. And off the pitch, we've been upping our game when it comes to equity and diversity. We've increased female participation by 658% since 2013, and with another 24 clubs intending to start a girls' section in 2022, this is just the start. Plus, the number of players in affiliated clubs and the talent pathway from diverse communities is double that of Wales's average population. As a result, our clubs are stronger and more rooted in the community than ever. Let's make every ball, every run, and every game count in 2022.
Okay, so thank you, Leisha, for that introduction. I hope you enjoyed that film. I'm just going to talk through the main themes and then pass on to Kerry, who's going to talk us through how we can start to get more involved. So the three main themes, as you see on the screen there, making people feel welcome, improving our facilities and playing facilities, and considering climate change. So let's look at the first one. How can we make our clubs much more welcoming to all sections of our community. So here are a few some of the ideas here, but the main issue being around, as we are becoming, as the film talked about, more diverse, more inclusive, and therefore engaging all sections of our community. Maybe some people don't feel that our clubs are up to scratch. And as suggested here, whether it's the decor, the social space where we connect for our social facilities, the toilet areas, which can be a real put-off for some people, catering capacity, the whole, as you arrive at the club, the arrival, parking, etc., or making sure the club is a place where people can feel at home because it's digital, and therefore we can access all our social media in the club. If these are the things that are going to be the turning point for your club, then this is what this scheme can look at. The second main area are the things that we're perhaps more comfortable with and perhaps more aware of in terms of our playing and practice facilities. And so whether that's a non-turf pitch, our practice areas, our nets, or even on the middle, on the edge of a square or in between two squares, obviously they're still up for a possible application, but also looking at making in facilities more welcoming as well. Showers, toilets, again, the whole personal possessions area, just making the whole fabric of the clubhouse an inviting and a welcoming area as well. And then thirdly, tackling climate change. Well, not every club will this will be relevant for, but for some it is very relevant. So particularly around floodplain areas where clubs have needs and challenges there, and the opposite where particularly in the dry and hot summers, irrigation is an issue to keeping our squares well watered. Or maybe it's energy saving, and that's a very moot point at the moment with all our bills going literally through the roof, or just water management and making sure the way that we use our water is as efficient as possible. So those are the three main themes and some of the ideas which hopefully will be of interest to clubs. And I'm going to hand straight over to Kerry Chahal, who's going to actually talk us through how we can start to get more engaged with the scheme. Thanks, Kerry.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. As you can see from the screen, the eligibility criteria, it's fairly fixed for most funding. Most funding programs now, all clubs that are involved from any national governing body have to have affiliations within cricket. We're aware that constitutions and insurances are fairly key. Our security of tenureship of where we are on the ground is important. Although within this environment, we only need evidence of a minimum of 1 year, which is previously a number of years. So that opens up the opportunity for a number of clubs. There's evidence required around financial accounts, which makes obviously that you're a sound financial investment if the ECB and Cricket Wales are going to invest into your club. And the safe hands adoption, which I think every club is nearly there. We've probably about 99.9% of clubs across Wales are there. We've got another round of safe hands training courses that are going around Wales. And obviously in this day and age, we have to have an inclusion and diversity policy, which again, we're 99% there with all our clubs. So any of these environments that you're unsure of, obviously come straight to us as our area manager team, and we'll run through it in a little bit more detail. But I think most of the clubs on this call and the clubs we deal with probably tick all those boxes, and we're confident that they do. So the real bullet point that I would draw your attention to is the last one. Absolutely, the ECB are investing money, and we are as well. So we're expecting clubs to work within the environments of growth around our juniors, our national programs, the All-Stars and Dynamos, and also the incredible growth we've had in women's and girls cricket. And recently, we're starting up a number of programs with disability clubs. So if you're engaging in these criteria, then absolutely, the criteria Mark mentioned earlier on will probably need some upgrading. So it's very relevant. So both sort of dovetail into each other. So essentially, if you just make sure that you're there, we'd have records of your involvement in these, but if you're unsure, again, please contact us. So if you go to the next slide, please, Mark. Right, essentially, there's a lot of information to digest, and it's all common sense if you look through it. The first thing that we would highlight you to is the link on the top of that slide there, which is the link to the website that you see. There's some slides there. That'll run you through the entire process. There are a number of links within there that are available, which talk you through some of the additional criteria information that you'll need that Mark Frost has just gone through. So essentially, our plan is to signpost all clubs into this environment first. Take your time. There's a lot of information. If you're unsure again on some of the links that come out, then we're only a phone call away, as we always are, so we can create some clarity for you. But once you're in a position to take the next step, there is an expression of interest form that we would like, obviously, for you all to fill in, because we, from our end, have to manage perhaps, maybe an avalanche, hopefully, of applications. So we need to vet them. So when we will come back to you, we're very close to our clubs, as you know. So literally, once you've done the expression of interest, we will then signpost you on to the IMS system. Now, IMS stands for Investment Management System. It's been here now for about 2 years. The majority of clubs have already been into this system because we've had Inspired to Play grants previously. We've had Funds for Runs grants previously. So essentially, it's not a system that's foreign to us. However, if you haven't been in it for a while, contact us and we'll obviously give you how to log in details, and perhaps you've forgotten who your contacts are because they remain within the system. So the first port of call is obviously, once speaking to us, we'll direct you into logging into the system and updating your contacts. But if you've got new contacts, what happens is that we get notification, so we then have to approve the contact. So we know, yes, we know that Mike Hayden is Swansea's chairman. So essentially, he's known to us, so we'll approve him so he can start working on it. So it's much of a vetting system as well. But as you go through the process, it's quite a step process which you can drop in and out of throughout the county grant fund application process. Organizational details are quite simple. That's who you are, where you are. That's quite easy. The next step is the application narrative. And this is quite important because within here, you'll be asked what type of application are you? Which one of the 3 criteria are you applying for? There's a brief, a little overview of what the project is. And there's quite an important part within this section, which is called the project need. And that's where we really encourage the clubs to sort of, within the narrative, link the criteria to what you need. So it becomes an argument that we have, not an argument, sorry, evidence that we can have that you meet the criteria, so we can do the approval processes. So that's quite an important section. If you need help with that, then obviously we're here to help. Within the same section, there's the project cost and the grant application and the grant size. So essentially, if your project was for £13,000, the maximum grant available is £10,000. So you'd request the £10,000, and then you'd have to seek partnership funding of £3,000. So essentially, this part is important because you've got to self-declare that partnership funding is available. So there's a number of options. You may have it, you can fundraise, there's other options, or you could allocate, it could be signposted to the ECB's interest-free loan environment within there as well. So essentially, you can pay that back over 5 years, and myself and Neil and the other area managers can give you details of how to do that. And then moving past that into the next sections, which is probably the most important section, are around the key documents and evidence. So the key documents would be things for your project like quotations. I've made a list here, like there's quotations, there's the evidence of your bank accounts, there's evidence of your tenureship would need to be put in here. Any narrative of evidence around the partnership funding would need to go there. So essentially within this area, this is where the uploads happen from a club point of view. There's another section to the evidence, which is supporting documents. Now within the supporting documents, depending on your project, you would have to upload drawings and perhaps confirmation of building regs. I've got in brackets there, it's a last bullet point, planning permission, which is probably one of the things that we found on the pilots that we've looked at, can create the biggest hurdle. So whatever projects you're thinking of, planning is with local authority. It takes a lot longer than what we'd like it to, obviously. So please just be aware of that. So go there first if you can, to make sure that your planning is in place. So once everything's in place, there's also the last part of that evidence piece is I'm reading from my notes, apologies, is the actual club documents. So the stuff we mentioned earlier on around the eligibility criteria, proof of insurances, your safeguarding, safe hands certificate, your uploading of your constitutions go in there. So once you start the process, you can flip back and forth each section whenever you're ready, but just make sure that you're aware of how much information that you need up front to start uploading. So if you've got a project on go, make sure that 2 or 3 things could be happening on the ground with your project team. So you're getting this evidence together for us to put through. Once everything is ready and you've pressed the submit button, it comes back to us as a national governing body. There's a piece that we've got to add our narrative and evidence support for your project in. And then we then press, fingers crossed, the approval button, which then goes across the NEIL and the ECB team. So that, in a nutshell, is the process. But again, we would literally signpost you first to the web link that you see on the screen. So I just, the next steps, I'm repeating myself here, but the second bullet point is probably good advice. Yeah, please take time to familiarize yourself with the guidance notes, around the themes and eligibility. There is no rush. As much as we'd like the applications to come in, just make sure that you're aware of what your project is. And if you need to speak to your area teams, please do so. If you have a project in mind and you think it's going to take the next step and you meet the eligibility and the evidence that I just described is there within your club, then absolutely go forth and complete the online expression of interest form, which is part of the main website. So yeah, if you've got a timeline, we've got projects that we've been speaking to for a little while as a part of our pilots. We'd like new projects to come in, and once we get the projects in, we can work through timelines with it, because obviously there's certain spends by certain times, but that's detail that we can move forward into. And I suppose the last bullet point is being fair to everybody, really, because we're hoping, and we're not putting NEIL under the pump here, but this will be ongoing funding for a few years. So you can only apply for one project per theme between now and 2025. So it's literally like a 3-year cycle potentially. So that's it in a nutshell. If you've got, I'll hand you back over to Leisha, and we can take that forward.
Thanks, Kerry, and thanks also for Rusty. I appreciate the club colleagues on the call. It's a heck of a lot of information to kind of try and digest. And for some of you, that's going to be like, oh my God, we've got an immediate project. We know what we want to do. Or we've got a ton of women and girls coming in, and we want to improve their changing facilities or whatever it might be. But yeah, I would just reiterate, Kerry's advice that there's no rush. This is a long-term strategic funding scheme. Many of you will be familiar with the old small grant scheme, which unfortunately potentially became a bit of a dash for cash. And that's not what we're looking to do here. It is so important that we invest. There are pretty big sums of money behind this, across all counties, and Wales obviously being not even a county, but a very large country for cricket and the growth that we've seen. We have a very, very healthy budget. So please don't rush in thinking you've just got to be first. We'd rather get these things right, get the right projects over the line and work them through methodically. I don't think we will run out of money. And if we do, I'll just talk to Neil and we'll get some underspend from some other counties, won't we, Neil? I've got a couple of questions already popping up in the chat box. So I'll maybe just take those, and then if there's anyone else that has specific questions, either about kind of projects in mind and kind of checking eligibility, or just real kind of top line stuff, or just seeking clarification, feel free to keep chucking them in, or use hands up, or just wave at me with a real hand. But I've got one from Joe. Hi Joe, evening. Is there a set time frame for the application? And if there was an offer, how long would the offer be on the table for? Great. I'm going going to look at the area manager. I probably can answer the first bit, but I don't want to give anyone any duff information. So I'll pass to one of the area managers, or Frosty, or even Neil. But as far as I'm aware, it's.
I was just typing an answer, actually.
Ah, you can speak, Neil. It's okay.
I can, yeah. Once contracts have been accepted, you've got a window of 9 months to complete the project. That's to allow time, or give clubs plenty of time to get things done. So that's the answer to that question.
So I guess from an application kind of point of view, there's no sort of, again, we have obviously our own kind of SLA, our sort of service level agreement of obviously turning around our part of this in a timely manner, you know, within sort of, well, certainly within a month. But yeah, I think that's the important point. Is that, Joe, was that ostensibly the question that you were asking? I've lost you now on my screen. Where are you? Are you on the next?
Thumbs up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Can you apply, Rich Night Evening, can you apply for more than one project per year, e.g. 2 projects covering separate themes? Big nods from Neil.
You can apply for one project or more than one project under one theme. So if you were doing a pavilion refurb, for example, and you wanted to do your toilets, social space, what else and kitchen, you can do that in one go. That's fine. I've done a couple of those.
But the key thing is one project per theme per year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Rich, it's a great question to ask, especially if you're on the front foot, my friend. But as an area manager, if we've got clubs across the board applying, I think it's our duty, and I think you would expect it from your own club, that we share it out. I wouldn't potentially in my area give 2 clubs 2 projects over the space of 1 year if we were inundated with applications. So we'd probably try. We've been fair in the past, and we'll continue to be fair. So it'll be on a needs and wider process, I would imagine. But it's a good question, mate, in all fairness.
Thanks, Rich. Any other immediate questions, comments, concerns even? Be really interesting to get kind of just general feedback on what you've heard. Like I say, appreciate a lot of it is just going to be kind of taking it in and kind of percolating. But is there anything else that anyone particularly wants to raise, or just kind of feedback, comment? Feel free to come off mute. Bit of free for all now.
Yes, Mike, just a feedback comment. It's great to have a grant applicable for clubs that don't have long-term tenure for, I think I've spotted a couple of other people on the call who are sort of on local authority grounds, and unfortunately we're falling behind the other clubs. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to try and, get up to date. So much appreciated from certainly our type of club.
Thank you, Mike. That's really helpful. I mean, Mike, if for anyone doesn't know, my background when I was at the ECB was actually working in the London region, and that was a lot of the feedback. That a lot of clubs there. Obviously, there's a lot of clubs on local authority grounds there. So yeah, I would absolutely echo that ECB are listening and trying to create solutions. I know we've got lots of hoops to jump through with public money and charity commission and so forth. But yeah, we'd totally concur. Thank you, Mike.
I've sent a message to Mark actually on the system here. It's just a query. We've had a grant from Welsh Government, and I've spoken to Mark White as well about this, our area manager. We had a grant, a community facilities grant from Welsh Government, which took about 4 years to get through. And with the delays with COVID, etc., this grant isn't going to cover the work that originally it was planned for. It. So we were trying to do our pavilion out to a standard that would accommodate disabled participants by including a disabled toilet and disabled changing area, and also address a safeguarding issue where if you wanted to shower in our facilities, you had to walk up the corridor past the social room, which not a great situation to be in. Now we left with a shortfall. We've addressed the safeguarding issue. We've addressed the disabled toilet, but we're left now unable to fund the disabled changing area and the ladies' toilet, which has had to be moved to accommodate a disabled toilet. Could we use this as match funding?
I'm hesitating on this one. I'm going to nominate Higginson, I think.
Sorry, Alicia. Have you started, Nicholas, or not?
Yeah, well, we had a deadline of March the 31st to spend the money, which has obviously gone, and we've only made a small dent in it. Obviously, it's had to go up to tender. It's gone through the right channels because we're dealing with public money. Yeah. It's a large chunk of money, and the sticking point basically was the local authority who couldn't, and the criticism, we couldn't get an act together with the Charities Commission to determine the lease on the premises. Okay. The building's 90 years old, so it was in dire need of this to sort of come up to a standard where we can accommodate all members of the community. Now, we've started the work. Demolition internally has taken place. The footings are just about to go in, the drainage is in, but we know that we're going to be left with this shortfall.
Would the shortfall be for something separate but related to the project? So something that's not started yet?
Well, it will be to actually fit out toilet and a toilet area and a disabled changing area.
That's all right.
The shell of these will be there.
Yeah.
But they will not be. This contract will not. Finish them off.
Without seeing the detail in principle, that's fine.
Yeah. It's
a fit out.
The planning permission is in place.
Yeah.
Everything's in place. And I will still have to find additional funding to go with this as well.
Okay.
I don't think this amount will cover it. So I'm still looking for additional funding. I just wondered, would this be sort of eligible for this sort of project?
Yeah, in principle, yes, it is.
Oh, thank you very much.
Partial good news. Thank you.
I think, Nick, the key area would then be your narrative within the partnership funding upload. So there's, so you'll have your price, you'll have the 10 grand towards it, and the gap is where you'd have to provide some evidence of how you'd fill that bit in, which you're right, you'd have to raise some more money.
Yeah, I'm going down other avenues searching for funding. Could I use the, you mentioned about 3 quotations in the application. Because this was part of a bigger project, the old project, it went out to tender. Could I use the original tenders as the quotations?
Possibly, yes. I would suggest from experience that you might want to go back to your suppliers and ask them to tender separately for the fit out items, bearing in mind the amount involved will be substantially less than the overall project.
Yeah.
Please don't read anything into what I'm saying, and I hope this is being recorded, but make sure, it's a conversation to have with myself and the area manager as well. We want to help, and we just want to make sure it's positioned in the right way for you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any more, gentlemen? In which case, I will call a close to proceedings this evening. We will make sure that this recording is shared more widely with club colleagues in Wales. I'm sure we can sort out a PDF version of the slides if that's of use to people. I did put the links in the chat box for those that are on the call to the relevant part of our website. Hopefully our website is lovely, user-friendly, so it's quite easy to find anyway, but if you go to the play section and then funding and facilities, you'll find all of the information and links over to ECB there. As Kerry said, our team is, as always, ready to help and assist, but I would really just urge people to just digest what you've heard, digest all that information and the guidance notes, and start having those conversations. Like say, some clubs will be ready and you'll know exactly what you want to do, but others would just encourage to take a step back, have a chat with your club members, with your committees, and start thinking about what are the right things. But look, I hope you think this is an exciting scheme. We certainly do. We're super grateful to the ECB, not only for the cash, but also for their support, and particularly Neil, who's works with us on all of sort of major projects in Wales. So really grateful for all of your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again. We'll share the information, and we'll look forward to working with you further. Let's just hope for some sunshine and go well when we start playing this. When we start playing in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. Diolch. Nostra.